Welcome to episode 320 of the 2-Minute Warning. Today I'm looking at the top 3 free agents the Los Angeles Chargers should be targeting in this 2021 NFL offseason. But before I get into the video, I have a question of the day for you Chargers fans and NFL fans in general. Chargers have 0 Super Bowl wins. However, they do have 1 Super Bowl appearance and they lost. Who was that team they lost to? For those of you who know the answer, comment it. First person to comment the right answer will get their comment pinned. If you don't know the answer, stay till the end of the video to find out who they lost to in their one and only Super Bowl in 1994 is kind of a hint right there. But looking at this topic, top 3 free agents the Chargers should definitely be targeting. Before I get into number 3, 2, and 1, an honorable mention, just so I don't want to waste it as a top 3 pick, is I think they need to re-sign Hunter Henry, and they should look at the restricted free agent, unrestricted free agent, just kind of hanging around the league, Earl Thomas, who hasn't played in a little bit. I think they need to re-sign Hunter Henry, great tight end, very efficient for their team, and Earl Thomas. They should at least look at him and see if they could fit in that defense. But realistic targets and big targets that could come and make a huge difference on this team, and that hasn't been there before. Hunter Henry doesn't count, and Earl Thomas, we don't even know if he will be back in the NFL in general, so therefore I'm not including them in the list, because also Hunter Henry wouldn't just even be fun to include in the list because he's not new to the team by any means. But number 3 for my top free agents the Chargers should look at is actually my number 1, but he's an offensive lineman. I don't want to hype you guys up for the number 1 on my list just to be an offensive lineman. That's kind of boring, so I'm going to put him at number 3 just for that sake. But he kind of is a necessity. The offensive lineman is Joe Thuney. He's an offensive guard from the New England Patriots. Amazing guy there, amazing protection, and that's exactly what the Chargers need. Idealistically, I'd like to see them draft an offensive lineman in the draft just so they're not spending money in free agency on a big lineman when you could get a offensive lineman on a rookie contract. However, if Joe Thuney is available and you could possibly pick him up for an affordable price, maybe you can restructure Brian Bulaga's contract that the Chargers have right now. He's an offensive lineman on their team, and he's kind of costing them a lot for not putting up a lot of numbers and stats. He's been hurt and banged up, not that he's been wanting to, but I do think they need to look into renegotiating that contract so they can afford more. And if they can do that with Bulaga, they could possibly definitely afford Joe Thuney, and it won't be such a hit to the cap. So I think if he's available at the right price, this is an amazing move for them. Like I said, he's an interior lineman, so this not only gives Justin Herbert the extra protection he needs, might not be the idealistic tackle when you have an edge rusher coming from the outside, but when you have a guy inside, yes, it will protect Herbert overall, but this will also open up the run game when the interior linemen are great and create holes and create a pocket for the running back to slip through. This will be great for Justin Jackson, Joshua Kelly, and Austin Eckler, whoever they want to turn into their primary ball handler. Of course, Austin Eckler is going to stick with taking the ball outside of the backfield and catching little dumps, but to run the ball, I could see them moving on to Joshua Kelly if he develops more. This was just his rookie year, so I think Joe Thuney would be a great pickup for the Los Angeles Chargers for sure. Offensive linemen is, I think, their number 1 priority this year, 100%. Number 2 on the list is a cornerback. Yes, there are big name cornerbacks such as Richard Sherman, Patrick Peterson. They could trade for Ramsey, you could trade for Marshawn Lattimore. Yes, there's those well-known guys. Of course, any team would go for them, but the Chargers are, yes, in a win-now situation, but they want a corner that's young and they can build with their team for the next following years, not just a one-and-done guy such as Richard Sherman or Patrick Peterson, who's really at the end of their year or career and probably going to cost way too much. So therefore, I'm looking not at them. And Jalen Ramsey and Lattimore, I don't think the Chargers should desperately be looking for a trade right now. They don't have a huge amount of draft capital. They have a solid amount, but nothing special to just give away and trade for a guy. So I'm looking at for corners, Troy Hill and Ronald Darby. Not the biggest names by any means, of course, around the league, but the reason I like this is because Chargers secondary already has a lot of talent between Chris Harris Jr., Casey Hayward, and Derwin James, and even Michael Davis. They're kind of number 2 corner this year for the Chargers, is definitely emerging. He's a great talented dude. He's just not a huge name in the league just yet, and I don't think he's going to emerge to be their number 1 corner, but he's definitely a talented guy and young guy on that Chargers team. So between the experience and Chris Harris Jr., Casey Hayward, and Derwin James, you have talent there, and you add 1 more corner that can shut down a receiver. This is a dangerous secondary, especially with Brandon Staley. Now, why do I like these guys? Is because Ronald Darby from the Bills, when he initially started in the league, was a great talent at cornerback. Then he went to the Eagles, still talented, not as much, and then he went to Washington this past year where he definitely regressed. That's not a great sign, but a couple reasons it's worth considering is A, you can pick him up for cheap, and B, you have a new head coach, Brandon Staley, who is defensive minded and can maybe bring back Ronald Darby's talent and experience that he had in the beginning of his career. And if you can emerge that out of Ronald Darby, again, this will be a great pickup, a diamond in the rough cornerback that the Chargers could definitely love to have next to Chris Harris Jr., Casey Hayward, and Derwin James. And therefore, if they don't get Ronald Darby, I like Troy Hill a lot as well. Did amazing on the Rams this past year, definitely being a part of that amazing passing defense, an amazing defense as general. But why do I really like him? It's because he played for Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley was a defensive coordinator for the Rams last year, so Troy Hill was under him. Therefore, Brandon Staley now going to the Chargers can maybe convince Brandon Staley going to the Chargers can now maybe convince Troy Hill to come to the Los Angeles Chargers. You know, they're clearly friends. They clearly work together. They're clearly teammates. I think Brandon Staley could get in his ear and get him to come to the other side of Los Angeles, to the Chargers side, and play for them if Sean McVay doesn't lock him up too soon. But I think Brandon Staley could definitely have an edge at getting him to come to the Chargers. Tell him about the potential there. Tell him, hey, do you want Justin Herbert to be on your other side of the football or Jared Goff? And I think Brandon Staley will convince him Justin Herbert is a much other guy to be playing with and for. So therefore, I think Troy Hill won't be super expensive. And yes, he'll come at a cost, but he gets very efficient under Brandon Staley's defense. I'm not sure how he would be elsewhere, but under Staley, we know he works, and if he came to the Chargers, he would clearly be under Staley. So to me, that is a beautiful pickup right there. Idealistically, number 3, like I said, is Joe Thuney. Number 2 is Ronald Darby or Troy Hill. They're not 1 and 2, it's just number 2 right there. Either way, whichever route they should go. And number 1 for me is Lavonte David, the linebacker from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This will probably be the hardest pickup, A, because he's expensive, and B, if the Bucs win the Super Bowl this year, the dude might not want to leave. But if you look at the Chargers all-around team, their biggest priority is offensive linemen and defense. But on the defense, you have a secondary that is getting a little older between Chris Harris Jr. and Casey Hayward. Derwin James is always banged up, but the talent is there in the secondary. And then on the pass rush, you have Joey Bosa, the highest paid defensive lineman in the league, if I'm not mistaken. The linebacker core is kind of, I don't want to say it has no talent, but they're definitely lacking a star-studded captain, and that is where Lavonte David could come in and control the entire team and be a captain of that team. I don't want to say he's one of the most underrated linebackers in the league because Lavonte David is highly respected, but I do think he flies under the radar a little bit as talent goes when you talk about linebackers amongst the league. The Buccaneers do have Devin White coming in. He's still very young. He could easily take Lavonte David's place, and I don't want to say force Lavonte David out, but give him a reason to leave, and therefore the Chargers can pick up a linebacker that could be that captain of the defense, control the entire thing, and the Chargers are going to be one of the most dangerous defenses in the league for sure under Brandon Staley, a new secondary, a new linebacker, and possibly on the other side of the football, you give Justin Herbert a little bit of protection. The possibilities are endless for this Chargers team, and I like them to make the playoffs this year. Now, a couple of these free agents, possibilities and the guys I think they should target, like I said, could possibly not happen, as if the Chargers decide to draft an O-lineman. They're probably not going to look for Joe Thuney in free agency, or if they decide to draft Patrick Surtain from Alabama or Caleb Farley, they're probably not going to be looking for Troy Hill or Ronald Darby or whoever is on their radar, William Jackson from the Bengals or Marshawn Lattimore. Like I said, the list goes on and on. So the draft will definitely affect what they do in free agency 100%. But as of right now, not having any draft happening at this moment, I do like the Chargers to go after an offensive lineman, a corner to finally cap off the secondary and take them to that next level. You give them a healthy secondary, they're already dangerous. You give them a healthy secondary with an extra piece, and they might be the most dangerous in the league. Yes, that's bold to say, but it's possible under Brandon Staley. I 100% have confidence in him. And then giving a linebacker that can control the team, understand the plays, help out the pass rush as well as dropping back and assisting the secondary in zone coverage. I think the possibilities are endless. None of these are set in stone. I'm not sure what the Chargers are doing. I'm not their GM, of course, but these are my favorite possibilities and targets for the Chargers to make the playoffs and what they should do in the offseason. No matter what, I do think the Chargers can make a deep playoff run this year. I have so much faith in Herbert and his new coach, Brandon Staley. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. For the question of the day, Chargers' 1 Super Bowl loss and 1 Super Bowl appearance was against the San Francisco 49ers, and the final score was 49-26. Not a pretty game for the Chargers, but I think Justin Herbert can possibly bring them back sometime in his career. Thanks for watching, guys. 2 in the morning.